Here we are again. Welcome to the show. We have Ricki D. She's the Associate Manager, Strategy and Development for the NBA Players Association. Ricki went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She also worked with the Washington Wizards, went to Georgetown, and is doing just some amazing work with players on the Player Association side. Ricki, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Now, Ricki, we met in the Minorities in Sports group. It's this group chat with all these amazing, dope, crazy, brilliant people who are in sports. How did you get involved in the group, and why is this group so important?
I think my friend Arenze, who I went to grad school with at Georgetown, I think he added me to the group and was kind of like, just threw me in there to the wolves and then texted me on the side like, oh yeah, there's this dope group for minorities in sports that you should be a part of. And I thank him every day for that because it truly is a network of just amazing people, like-minded people. And it's just, we're really going to take the sports world by storm. So I'm glad to know everyone and get to know everyone, and share ideas and opinions, and opportunities.
Those are the few things that it's hard to have in your day-to-day life unless you're intentional about being a part of groups like this.
Hmm. Definitely. And especially because you can get so used to just working in your own little like circle. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm making friends that are in media, that are on brands, just pretty much everywhere in the world of sports. And as you know, sports is such a small community. Um, your worth is the people that you know. So any opportunity to make additional contacts in the industry in various different areas of focus, the better for you in the long term.
Absolutely. And then you're also able to learn from people and learn about different industries and professions and roles that you may not have known exist, which is why we're talking today, right? We met in the group and then we met at the Women's Sports Foundation gala and I was like, you do what? How does that work? So will you elaborate on your role and the main responsibilities you have and what it's like working with Michelle Roberts? That's my plug for Michelle.
Okay, so I started with the NBPA as Michelle Roberts and Krista Chen's assistant. And so just working directly with both of them because they're both game changers in their own right. Michelle having come from Skadden, and then Krista started with the league, then was consulting with Nike for a little bit and actually worked. I'm sorry, she started with the PA, then she worked with the league for 17 years in player development. And so she's kind of like the fairy godmother to the NBA.
Yeah.
So working under both of them just taught me so much about being confident and being secure in what I bring to the table. And they definitely built my confidence a lot. Not that I didn't have, you know, the confidence within myself to do it, but just having women in positions that I aspire to be in one day, it means a lot for them to take me under their wing. Is like my first real job out of grad school. Um, and so just working with them has been phenomenal. I was with them as their assistant for about 6 months. And then at my 3 month review, I actually was told that I'd be getting a promotion. So it took a while for me to transition out of that role. But now I'm the associate manager, strategy and development under Krista Chen. And pretty much the easiest way to describe what I do is player services. We develop strategy for the players. And so one of my main projects right now that I'm working on is revamping our membership card program. And so in previous years with the union, players would get like a laminated card and it'd be like, welcome, like you're a member of the union. And that was kind of it. And I wish I had a card with me. But now what we've done is we've totally revamped the program. We have these brand new cards. They get similar to how like Apple and like Beats will give you like a new phone or some headphones. Like the packaging is really nice. And the new thing about the membership card is it unlocks all the services and perks of the union. So not only will you find out about programs and it's a way to track all of that stuff, but we have a concierge program called Bespoke Player Services, and it's my job to manage the concierge program. We get vendors, we get brands, luxury services to offer discounts or VIP access to our players as a part of their membership with the union. And so, of course, everybody's super excited about that because even though they make millions of dollars, who doesn't love free stuff?
Right. Absolutely. A
So that's
discount.
exactly. So that's the easiest way to describe what I do in strategy and development. That's my main project. Of course, I work on other things as well,
Mhm.
but that's my focus, and pretty much just making sure the player's life off the court is the best it can be.
Can you give an example of a specific brand and how that supports players in their lives?
Okay, so we have I'm trying to think how to, Sports Relocation is the name of a brand. And what they do is they help transport cars to all the different cities. Think about all the player transactions that happened between last season and this season. And then you add the rookies to that. They need to get their cars certain places, but a lot of the times they have either multiple cars, or you just need somebody to be really discreet and confidential about the
Mhm.
locations they're coming from and going to. It's just a lot of variables when you throw professional athletes into the mix. So that's something unique that, say an average person wouldn't really need, um, on the scale that our players do. Because think about it, it could be upwards of 2 to 3 moves every year. You never know. And so that's one service that is a favorite of our players, just because it's a trusted contact, and all of the vendors and brands that are in Bespoke, it's not just like anyone off the street. These are people that have been vetted, and also come with recommendations from current and former athletes as well across all sports. So that's something that we take very seriously in providing service to our players and making sure that they're protected, because we are their union and that's our job, to protect them first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I can tell that like you're really passionate about this, and it's really important to you that you do your job well, so I'm not surprised that you're promoted after just a few months.
Thank you.
Why do
You never work a day in your life.
Say that again?
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So that's something I try to live
Oh, it's true. Absolutely true. Now, why do you love this work? How did you get involved on the business side of sports?
So when I was a little girl, I've always loved sports. Both my parents actually kind of instilled that in me, but I wasn't athletically inclined. So I quickly had to learn how to make sports work for me. And so I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I was actually a manager for the women's basketball team. I actually had just the student newspaper one day, and there was an ad, um, saying that they were hiring managers. So I was like, why not? UNC has such a storied tradition, both on the men's and women's side. Why not be a part of something great? So I interviewed for it, got the job, and that was the best 3 years of my life as a manager. And getting to know the players on and off the court, that's kind of sort of how I figured out this is what I want to do as a career, just because they became my friends. So I started caring about them as people, not necessarily them as athletes, or what happens on the court. Um, so that's kind of why I started being strategic in the I guess the opportunities I looked at. So like Georgetown came about. I went to my sister's graduation. She graduated from Georgetown, got her master's in communications. And I'm like, oh, they have a program for sports. This is perfect, because I was just going to go to law school. I thought that was the avenue to take, was just law school and then become an agent or something. But when I found out that Georgetown had the sports industry management track, I was like, this is perfect, because I don't want to be an agent. I just want to do like marketing and what I do now. So it was a perfect little avenue for me. And especially, I would say UNC laid the foundation, but Georgetown took it to another level, just because I was in class every day with industry professionals. We didn't have tenured professors. So the CFO of DC United was my finance professor. And this was when they were deciding whether they wanted to move the team to Baltimore or keep them in DC. So these were like everyday conversations we were having about real world stuff. This is also during the lockout NBA season.
Yep.
Believe
Remember?
we won't have a lockout this time.
Right. Absolutely.
But we had executives at the Wizards there that were talking as much as they could about the CBA negotiations and what was going on. So this is the type of learning environment that I immersed myself in, and it really, I think, was the game changer and the catalyst that kind of sort of propelled me to where I am now. So I'm very thankful for both my UNC and Georgetown experiences.
Well, nothing compares to being in the room and hearing those conversations and really being able to tap into the mind of sports executives and people of
Hmm.
business executives around sports. Like that's huge.
Hmm.
And so much of that is what I feel with MIS. like we're in the group and we're having these really in-depth conversations, and we're talking business strategy, and we're talking about the game, and we're looking at commercials, and just having conversations about how it was marketed, why it was marketed. And I think that is a key differentiator in terms of opportunities that will present themselves in the future.
Definitely,
when you,
definitely.
when you have that.
Yeah, you never know who's in the room and who will hear something, and who will remember something. So
You're right. Now, who are some mentors who've helped you along the way to get to where you are?
okay, so my first mentor in sports, well, mentor in life, aside from my parents, was probably Scotty Graham.
Okay.
He was, well, I was at the NFLPA interning. I have a thing for unions. Well, at the NFLPA interning while I was at Georgetown, he was the director of player engagement, and I was interning in the player services department. And he just took a liking to me and took me under his wing and just kind of like guided me while I was there. And it's continued to, like, I actually just saw him maybe like 2 weeks ago. And it's continued to just like take a vested interest in my professional and personal development. I remember vividly one day as an intern, I was just like, I'm kind of sort of finished this project. Let me just go around and see if anybody needs help. And so I went into Scotty's office, like, no, can I help you with anything? He was like, oh, yeah, we're working on this PSA campaign with Ad Council for the Horn of Africa. It was like the famine, war, and drought that they were getting NFL players to speak out about. And he's like, I could really use your help on it. So I like helped him with it, develop some strategy, write some of the script for the PSAs, like just reach out to like the CR departments and whatnot. And I'll never forget, I'm a huge Eagles fan. I'm from Philadelphia, huge Eagles fan. And one morning, like a few weeks later, he was like, yeah, I'm going up to Philly for the Eagles to shoot their video shoot, the PSA. And I'm like, I want to go. So I'm like, Scotty, like, do you think I can go with you? And he's like, you got to ask the big man. Dexter Santos is the VP of the department. He's like, you got to ask him. But if he says yes, I'm cool with it. And so I went to ask Dexter, and he looked at Scotty, and Scotty was like, let her go. And so like little things like that was probably my first opportunity to one, showcase what I can do aside from like the general tasks that I was assigned, that I can take on more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, just having someone believe in me, to say like, give her a chance, let her do it. So that was probably the biggest and first opportunity for me in sports to see like where my talents could take me. And then after Scotty, and there have been a lot along the way, but the one that stands out to me is Krista Chin, who I work for now.
Okay.
So funny story, I actually interviewed for the NBA fresh out of grad school in 2012. And it was in the player development department at the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so the position wasn't with Krista, but I interviewed everyone on the team. And so she like stuck out to me. I like, of course I sent my thank you notes, all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, that Krista Chin, like, I'm going to circle back to her. I know it. And then, so when the posting came back for the NBPA job as her assistant, when I interviewed, I was like, this is my chance. Like, this is like cosmic divine intervention or something. And so after the interview was over, I was like, hi, Krista, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I interviewed with you back in 2012. And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. She was like, I loved you back then, but it wasn't me that was hiring for the job. A friend of mine from Georgetown actually got it. So I wasn't too mad.
Right.
But for a reason. And I'm glad that they said no to me then, because I was able to, down the line, get the opportunity to work directly with her at the NBPA. And ever since then, she's been like a second mother to me, and just making sure, again, both personally and professionally, making sure that I'm getting the most out of my opportunities, and I'm feeling supported and appreciated, and like all the things that you would want in a boss that you would never think would happen or you would get, especially in sports, because it's such a cutthroat industry. Like, I'm blessed to say that I have had opportunities where I felt nothing but support and appreciation, and like given the freedom to kind of be creative and kind of just go with it. And that's something that I know a lot of people don't have, and so I'm really fortunate for that. But I would say those are the biggest two mentors that I've had in sports thus far, is Scotty Graham and Krista Chin.
And we know that those mentors make a big difference. And I love how you went and asked, how could you help? Right? Because that, if people know that you're willing to serve, you're not there to get. Who knows
Mm-hmm.
what opportunities may come up in the future? So you went to them as an intern and said, just let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who are listening, you're right. You absolutely don't know.
Exactly. And you'll see again. I didn't know if I would see Chris again, and now look.
Yep. You don't know who's why. We never know why people show up in our life and how they're going to resurface in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
are chatting with Ricki Dean with the NBA Players Association. Ricki, we're going to take a quick break for
Okay.
sponsors, and then we'll come right back.
Really excited.
Okay. So I love that you have like these two. Well, there were two. Now there's one. Like women who you're working with. And this second part, I really want to talk about how working with a great leader impacts who you are and your experiences, especially with the challenges that women face in the industry. So we're gonna cut back. Okay, we're back with Ricki Dean. Let's talk about being a woman in the sports industry, and then we'll
Okay.
we'll roll with some questions about that. Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Cool. We are back with Ricki Dean with the take two. We're back with Ricki Dean. She works with the NBA Players Association, works directly with Carissa Chan. Ricki, we know that being a woman in a male dominated industry, sometimes there are challenges. Can you talk a little bit about some challenges you face being a young woman in this industry?
Sure. Well, the obvious one, I'm a young woman and I'm single. So it could be that, maybe I'm here to get a husband or what have you. Um, and like I said, I'm lucky to work for an organization that does not see gender or marital status
Mm-hmm.
as a hurdle. And they're more so focused on and concerned about what I bring to the table in terms of doing my job. But there have been instances in my sports career past where that has been an issue or has come up. I remember vividly when I was interning for a team, a player mentioned to my boss that he wanted to date me. And so that kind of sort of makes it awkward. It's like I did nothing wrong and what have you, but it still kind of makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells from now on.
Yeah.
And it kind of sort of makes you a little self-conscious to do your job because you don't want to cross, like, as a woman in sports, you have so many battles to fight. Like you don't want to add anything to your plate. And so I just feel like once that happened, I was like walking on a very fine line. Um, and it kind of affected me, not in terms of like my work, but just how I approached the job. And so that's something that we struggle with every day, whether it's race doesn't play an issue for me because believe it or not, the NBPA is predominantly minority. So it's actually kind of a cool environment to work in, especially with everything that's going on. We're able to have like a lot of open conversations, even with our white counterparts and colleagues. It's just a really open space and open forum, which is great. But definitely with the woman aspect of it too, it's just we have so much already to think about. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I just try to push it back in my mind. And luckily, I'm at a job where I have the ability to do that.
What do you think are some things that are essential for being a woman in the industry? Like, if there are other young women who are coming up, who are fresh out of grad school, what advice would you have for them?
I would say be bold because men are bold. And so I don't think you should back down. I think know what you bring to the table, know your worth, and stick to that. If they can't see how awesome you are, that's their loss. And I've actually had to do that for one of my opportunities. It was I don't need to suffer through and be here. Like I know what I bring to the table. I know my worth, and you're not appreciating that, and you're not empowering me. And so I knew then it was my time to go. And I know a guy wouldn't think twice about something like that. And so why
Mm-hmm.
should I come in? So I think if you just go in with the mentality that you are capable, you're there for a reason, you are equal to men, don't second guess anything. And if you're negotiating salary, always add 10,000 to
Ah,
it.
great advice. Great advice. The 10K. Always add that. I like that.
Oh, that.
There was some interviews that Sarah Spain had around experiences that she's had being a woman in sports. And, Jamel Hill has talked about experiences she's had. And I mean, it's been crazy. How can young women in the industry, women in general, best deal with that?
I think you have to have a tough skin because sometimes I also think people are doing it to test you and to see how you'll react under pressure, or in that circumstance. Can they trust you if a player were to come on to you? So I think you should just stay in who you are. You have your morals, you have, your character about you. Be confident in that and just let it roll off your back. Because this is a really tough industry and you have to have thick skin anyway, so you might as well develop it early. And so that's one thing that I was taught as a child, and Krista has reinforced in me, is that you always stand up for yourself. It doesn't matter if it's the executive director coming at you or a receptionist. You stand up for yourself. And so that's what I've tried to do, and let my work speak for itself, let the way I treat people speak for itself, and just let my professionalism speak for itself. So there's no question about where I stand.
Absolutely, and there's no compromise. I mean, there's some conviction in your voice when you talk about who you are, what you stand for, and your approach to the work, and that's key. Like that's absolutely essential.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that the NPBA is predominantly minority. I didn't know that, but I think it's really important to have those safe spaces, especially with all that's happened around athletes and activism this past year. From your perspective, how do you see sports shaping the approach to activism?
I think we're at a very unique point in history. Similar to how we were in the civil rights era when you had like the Muhammad Ali's speaking up. And I'm really excited that NBA players are at the forefront of it. Like with the ESPYs, that was amazing. And to think like 4 out of the 5 of them are on our executive committee is just super dope. Um, but I'm really excited to see where this goes and how it brings about change, because at this point it's getting really bad and really blatant and overt. Um, but it also brings up the whole notion of people just think it needs to be like a shut up and play mentality. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about this for? Like, your job is to play basketball. Your job is to play football or to play tennis for Serena. Like, nobody cares about your opinion. Um, this is our time to escape. Like, why are you using this platform to bring about awareness about police brutality? Like, stuff like that. So I think we're using sports as like a microcosm for the society at large. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm really proud of all athletes for standing up and saying something, because sports reaches a lot more people than CNN does or MSNBC. And it reaches a lot younger people. And if you can start sparking about a change in the younger generation, that's where you really see a difference. That's where you can really see change.
Yeah, Ricki, you're right on point. I mean, the impact of sports is undeniable on our culture. You look at major brands, is why they put, you know, athletes in certain clothes, a certain gear, or certain brands associated with them, because we know that if you can align State Farm with Steph Curry and CP3 and those guys, like when you're thinking about what car insurance you're gonna get, like you're probably gonna think about State Farm, and what home insurance you're gonna think about State Farm.
Exactly.
It,
Exactly.
it's huge and by design, and I think that I love, like you said, I love the fact that more athletes are taking a stand because they have influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and it doesn't mean that everyone agrees, to your point as well. Like some people just think it's a bad idea. I'm not a role model. I'm just gonna play ball and go live my life.
Have a right to do that.
Yep.
That everybody has their right to do whatever, however they're moved to do. But I think it's important that there are those people and those stars. I think means a lot. Like to have LeBron and to have CP and have Dwayne Wade and Melo opening up the SB saying this is not right. That speaks volumes,
Yeah.
because I could say it, but who am I?
Ricki, you're important. You are very important, Ricki. We're not gonna deny your significance. I mean, you're not LeBron, but you matter. We all have our influence.
Yes. We do.
So, Ricki, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. There are three questions that I want to ask as we wrap up.
Okay.
The first question is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received came from my mother.
Okay.
And she claims this quote, but I don't know if she really said it. But it's the only thing you can give and still keep is your word. And
Oh, that's
so
good. I
I've tried to live by that, um, and being a woman of my word,
okay.
and knowing that that's kind of like my currency. If
Mm,
people can't trust me, or if I constantly flake or just don't follow through, it's not going to go well for me in the long run. So the only thing you can give and still keep is your word.
that's really good. You need a shirt with that. Like get some t-shirts made. That's really good. I love that. What are you
Mhm.
most excited about in 2017?
In 2017, I am most excited about. That's a tough one. Hmm. I would say just the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's gonna happen, um, but just seeing like where my job takes me, where my friends take me. Just I'm all about adventure and just having fun and living life. So I'm excited to see what 2017 has in store.
Awesome. And then the last question, what do you want your legacy to be?
Hmm. I want my legacy to be one of empowerment, um, and one of just going after what you want. Like that's one thing I never let somebody telling me no or you can't do that stop me. And so I want to empower everyone, whatever that is, whether that's working in sports or going to the Olympics or anything, being the best lawyer you can be. I want you to just be empowered and know that you can do it. And I guess my lasting wish would be like, I just want to change one person's life so they can say, Ricki said this or did that. And that's when I knew like I could do anything. That's kind of sort of I want to leave that legacy too. Like just one person. And it doesn't even have to be like anything big, but just that made a difference
Mm-hmm.
in someone. So that's it.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you've already done that in some capacity. I talked to Shina and she said there were some students who came to visit the NPBA and that had an impact on them because they usually don't have that type of access. And so
Oh
I
yeah.
think your legacy is already etched in stone, Ricki.
Oh wow, that's so dope. She didn't tell me that.
Yeah. Yep. So just continue doing what you're doing. I just thank you so much
Thank you.
for taking out the time to chat with me and continue doing great work. If people want to learn more about the Players Association, if they want to learn more about you and your journey, how can they reach you?
Um, I'm trying to think because I don't really have professional social media. Totally inappropriate on social media sometimes.
But that's
Just you can reach me. I don't know how to
email.
reach email. My email is wait. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
That's perfect.
And Ricki C Dean, D is in David, EAN. I'm working. See, I'm a work in progress, y'all. I don't have it all just yet. I'm getting to a professional Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. Maybe that's coming in 2017.
Yes, yes. The people. That's fine. People have to connect with you, Ricki. They want to connect with you.
I will say that if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, because there was a period of 6 months when I was between jobs before I started at the PA, and I LinkedIn stalked everybody when I was applying to jobs, everything, and that made the world of difference. I was the queen of sending a cold message,
Mm-hmm.
and so ever since then, because people responded to me, if anyone reaches out to me on LinkedIn, I always respond to them. You have to pay it forward. So if you really do, if you truly reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I accept like all requests, um, I will respond back to you.
Perfect. LinkedIn is the way to go. Reach out to Ricki Dean, chat with her, learn about her journey, and who knows what'll happen in 2017 or even 5 years from now.
The great adventure.
Thanks, Ricki.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.